Thank you. You jumped on my lap.
Oh,
right,
hi, Ken.
Go ahead and
Oh, hi.
introduce.
Oh, sorry, you're Poppy.
All right, I'm going to introduce it with Frank licking your face.
Nice to meet you. What a sweet puppy you are. Oh, you such a love. I know. Okay, I can tell you about your mommy. I can tell your mommy a little bit. We've got to get started with the podcast. I'm sorry.
Hello, this is Lisa. Hello, we're not going to start it. Hello, this is Lisa Russick and Misty Laura with the podcast We're All Psychic. And we had a Frank up here. There he is. Oh, wait. We have a guest. Her name is Nancy. Our guest is not Frank. You all know Frankie. Our guest is Nancy. Nancy, would you like to say hello?
Hello.
And they say hello back, I think. Listeners, this is a video podcast on Spotify. And Nancy, we have a question for you. Do you think we're all psychic?
Yes, I definitely do.
How'd you get to that? How'd you get there? How'd you get to that conclusion?
So interestingly enough, I work with people all over the world of all walks of life. And I actually talked to a brain surgeon. And I was asking her what she thought of my abilities, like how she could reason it. Because first of all, I was like, thank you for booking me as an animal communicator. Thank you for booking me. How do you reason it out? And she gave me the most interesting answer. She said that she thinks it's instinctual, that it comes back from the hunter-gatherer days and that we had these abilities way back when, and that's how we survived. And she said, the truth of the matter is even brain surgeons only understand 10% at most of the brain. She's like, the reality is she said the brain is the most
unexplored territory.
Yeah, like they said, in reality, we have no idea how so much works in the brain. Like we think that we're there, but she's like, even as a brain surgeon, she's like, we know nothing.
Yeah,
like very little. And she's like, so she thought it was an instinct-based thing that is hereditary, that is genetic, that a lot of people have just turned off. And that's how I use to describe my own abilities, is I can turn off and on. Yeah. So, but she thinks that's just a part of the brain. And actually, one of my mission statements is I would love to fund scientific research and really study parts of the brain that are working. Because to me, it's fascinating. Like, I don't know anyone out there that's done like CT scans of the brain. It's really cool. Like I pretended like I was in a Star Wars capsule. Like that's how I did it. I was having like headaches and they had to like study it, but like, you go through CT scans. So wouldn't it be fascinating if like you had, and not just me, like people with abilities, with proven abilities, and they could like ask questions and then see what part of the brain. Yeah.
They have
but let's
not
like,
in a controlled.
But exactly. Like let's start exploring and then let's see how we can use it. Like how we can use it, because is it just instinct? Like, because for me, like I can talk with animals and people that have passed all over the world. So for me, I know it's more instinct, but 100%, we all have abilities of some degree. Some of us are just, again, because of perhaps our genetic makeup, it's going to have a deeper level, but we all, it's instinct. That's what I would.
You might find this interesting, Nancy. I've done some reading about a long time ago. I did this reading when I was trying to figure out, am I psychic? Is this?
Yeah.
I was doing some reading and they did some research. They found that the scientists say that we have parts in the brain that do all these things, but there are no sensors. There's no eyeballs. We have the parts of the brain still, and they will light up sometimes, or in the chart, they don't know what they do, but they're like, when we had whiskers, this worked, but it still lights up. So it's doing something, Yeah. So that's something they do know, that these parts of our brain are in there, and they know they know that they are connected to senses, or any kind of physical sense, but they don't know where the sensor is, or they say the sensor doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Like a tail. We don't have tails anymore, whatever. So I thought you'd find that interesting. So
no, it's fascinating. Yeah. Well, and what I love is I'm always like, I love when I get veterinarians that come to me. I just had a veterinarian the other day, veterinarians and like, surgeons. And I work with, again, all walks of life, but it's like the freaking brilliant people, like the Mensa people, that I'm always like, I want to pick your brain. Like, explain, like when I've had like cancer, like oncologists, like contact me. And I'm like, I'm so grateful, but how do you, because like, those are the people, like, again, brain surgeon, you can't beat that as far as understanding. And it's amazing that I think when you talk to doctors and people that have these backgrounds and you ask them personally, maybe they won't admit it, publicly or whatever, but when you ask them personally, they will say, we have stuff we can't explain all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I bet they do. That's what's fun about it. I want to hear those stories.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about how you learned that you could communicate with animals, or has it always been there? Or with the dead,
That's a great question. And actually, I answered it on TikTok the other evening. And the way I answered it is I've always known I had it. But the question for me has always been, is it good? So ever since I was little, I grew up on a farm in Northern California, and 7 miles from the nearest little itty bitty town. And I always knew I was connected to animals. We had pigs. We had Smoker, Joker, and Poker pigs. And we had, those were their names. And I would go and cuddle with them. And they seemed to inherently understand that I was lonely, that I needed a friend. And they seemed to just have this, it was like we had this unspeakable like connection, but also, and this sadly still happens to this day, there would be animals that would be dropped off. So our house was at least a mile from the nearest road, and somehow animals always seem to find their way back. And even my mom, who to this day is the most non-believer as far as like abilities and very much, and she would even say like, Nancy, I don't know how these animals know to come back to you. So I have always inherently known that I had abilities. I could also speak to people, to dead people. And my grandmother came to me when I was 6 and started speaking to me as well. But when I would tell adults, and thankfully it's a lot better now, but when I told adults in the early 80s, I was shunned. I grew up Catholic. So that was a whole ball of wax there.
Oh, yeah.
But from my understanding, I knew I always was, but for years, I punished myself because I thought I was different, and I hated being different. And I was so depressed and all of that stuff because I wanted so badly to be normal, because no one was telling me to not only accept my gifts, but love them. And that these were real. Instead, I was being told, brainwashed in a way, gaslighted, that not only were my gifts not real, but I was crazy, right? We just were talking about that word crazy. I was told that I was crazy. I was diagnosed with everything under the sun, from borderline personality disorder, bipolar, to schizophrenia. I was diagnosed and pumped on all sorts of fun drugs in the 80s and 90s.
Did you think something was wrong with you too? Were you taking them?
I believed it. Yeah, I believed it because that's what I was wondering. Because I was, 6 years old. Like, when you go and tell your mom, I just heard grandma speak to me and this is the stuff she was saying, and your mom says, oh no, you didn't hear it, you're not going to believe it. But what was interesting to me is no matter the pills I took, which by the way is a whole other, like, it's just insane, like the stuff I ended up taking. But even with all the stuff I took, I remember writing in my journal one day, because I had been convinced that all of this was in my mind. And I wrote down, I'm hearing people speak to me again, but I know they're not real. And I wrote it down. And as soon as I wrote that, I heard, we are real. And it was because the things that I would hear in my head were never bad. It wasn't like, go burn something, it was always just like, there's people around you. We're supporting you. You're building up for something. Like, I was always, these messages were always very warm and inviting. It was never bad stuff. And I guess that's what I didn't understand, is when I would try and explain to adults, like, no, they're just telling me that there's people around me, or I would feel them around me, or I'd feel ghosts. Like, I'd feel ghosts. And then again, I'd be in the crazy town, but instead of listening to me and saying, well, maybe this isn't so bad, they immediately, because I wasn't even hearing it. Like, when I say hearing, to me,
you just kind of know
information comes through a stream of consciousness. So it's just like you're thinking about, you need to get bread at the grocery store. That's how I hear animals and people. It's not a voice. Also, when I was younger, I would get sense. I know that's a type of psychicness. Forgive me, I don't know the term for it.
Maybe it's clairsmelliance.
Clairsmell. Is that really it? Clairsmelliance?
I don't know what it is. That's just what I call it, because I can never remember it.
Yeah, but there is so
there is one.
That's one that actually a lot of kids will get.
I've had
that one is very common.
It is. A lot of people smell like smoke.
A lot of people, but exactly. But a lot of people, because they're convinced, because other people don't understand, they're convinced that it's nothing. Like, I think I hear that Yeah, like
Is this a thing?
I remember my grandfather died when I was 8, actually on my birthday, which threw me. Talk about throwing the girl that thought she was weird already. Then your grandfather dies on your birthday, and you think especially you're going to hell.
Oh gosh, yeah.
No, but I immediately after he passed, I would smell cigar smoke, and it was every once in a while. It wasn't like I was hearing it all the time. Which now you'd be like, okay, is it a tumor? Is it something going on? But no, it would be every once in a while, and I inherently knew that he was just visiting. And then my grandmother passed and I smelled her, but it was interesting because it was never sensed that it wasn't like roses. It would be like you said, like their perfume or something that connected, or
even like flowers or
yes, but it would be
weird
like
smells, like
flower.
cat litter,
yes, it would be
stuff like that.
Smell.
Yeah.
And so what I tell people now, and this is one of the things I really try and encourage, and I do with my own kids, is if you smell something, if you hear something, it's not automatically bad. It doesn't mean it's not true. You allow them to speak about it, because that's one thing I didn't have the opportunity to do. And I'm still working it out with my mom and the things that happened. It's like, hey, mom, well, what happened here? But
she was scared.
That's the actuality is people are afraid of what they don't understand. And we're talking about in the early 80s. And I'm 50% Portuguese. And if you are being raised in a very, very traditional patriarchal household, you're going to want to stay in the lane. You are going to want to stay, and you don't want to upset anything in the lane of that family dynamic. And so because I did, I was labeled the black sheep. And to this day, I don't have good relationships with my family, and that's okay. But it's interesting how much rejection can come into play with people that have abilities. And even, not even just doing it professionally like I do, but just everyday people. Like I tell people, your bartender can be psychic. You're the guy that changes your oil.
Your bartender is definitely psychic. Or an empath.
Bartenders are amazing. Bartenders are amazing. But that's the thing. But it doesn't mean that because they feel something, oftentimes people will feel shunned, or it won't be until like I talk to them and they're like, well, I've been getting feelings. I'm like, oh, and sometimes I'm the first one to be like, that's okay. You're normal.
A lot of people probably who know you or feel comfortable coming to you and saying, I've had this experience. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah.
Like,
they would come to you first. I would come to you first.
Yeah.
And I'm welcome to it for sure, because I know what it's like to be like, that's nothing. You're crazy. Because when someone tells you that it's nothing, you freak out about it even more. You don't just go, oh, mom said it's nothing, I'm okay. No, you're right.
Especially if you keep thinking about it and it's like,
and
I know down here in my gut that it's something. It's weird.
No, exactly. Yeah. Like you go, wait a minute. Like I felt like, so if it wasn't that, then what was it?
Right.
Of course, don't tell an overthinker that it's nothing, because they'll keep thinking about it.
You're right. Yeah, don't go there.
Yeah. Don't think of the pink elephant. Don't think of the pink elephant. I have a question for you, Nancy. Listeners and watchers, right before I hit record, I was really trying to get it fast because Frankie over there behind Misty, if you are watching, Frank was in her lap and Nancy was like, oh, I can tell your mama some stuff about you. So we got to get to the show. I don't know if you remember that, Nancy. It was right when I started.
Frank, can I see Frank? Where's the Frank boy? Hi, nice to meet you. What a boy you are. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, you want a good boy. Oh, my goodness. Hi, sweet puppy. He says he wants to go out more, and then he's very afraid that you don't let him out enough. And he wants you to walk out with him. He needs you to escort him out. He says he gets scared in the dark.
He does.
He gets scared in the dark.
Just like Oscar, Misty. Oscar has to be escorted.
He gets scared in the dark. And he says there's not a lot of light on the patio. Do you have one of your lights out on the patio, or is it just darker?
It's just dark.
Yeah. He says he wants more light out there. That he's very afraid of the noises.
Yeah,
he's very afraid of the noises. And so he wants you to escort him out.
Oh, okay.
That's so weird, Nancy, because his father is my boyfriend's dog, and we always have to escort. When I'm at his house, he won't. He's my shadow dog when I'm there. He won't go outside unless I escort him.
It might be a genetic.
It might be. Isn't that cute?
Because just like, it's like they're starting to show, and I see this almost daily. Dogs that have ADD, dogs that have they've already proven that dogs.
Oh
can have,
yes, I had a cat who lost her mind. Yeah.
No, you can have animals that have OCD. other things. So so just like with people. So I'm not surprised if his dad is like that he's like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And his dad's very smart and Frank is very smart too. They're very intelligent.
They have a lot of the same characteristics.
They do. Weird little things like the way they'll like do
the way that he drinks water is really interesting too, right? He does something a little funky monkey with his water.
He's just always.
Well, it's almost like, does his tongue kind of go on one side of his mouth sometimes? Like that?
Yeah.
It kind of like goes to one side.
Yeah.
Like that. Not that I'm trying to imitate. Like, yeah.
You made me do it.
But, I just feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, my younger dog, his mother is having a lot of trouble with her back leg, and he keeps gnawing on it. And I'm afraid he's the cause of the problem.
Wait, who's gnawing on whose leg?
His mom.
Okay.
He is gnawing on her leg.
What's her name?
Princess.
So Frank is gnawing on Princess's leg?
Yes. And
he's trying to help her. He's trying to help her.
Is he trying to help her by biting her leg?
One second. There's, does she have some bumps on her back leg? Maybe just from gnawing at it?
Yeah.
He thinks he's trying to get the bumps off.
Oh.
Okay. Oh.
So tell him not to, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard because he thinks he's helping. He's trying to get the bumps off, but it's almost like the bumps are from irritation.
Yeah. It's dislocated knee.
You need to see if there's a way that, and I'm not a veterinarian. I always tell people, not a veterinarian.
We've already been to the vet.
So yeah. Can you wrap up the leg at all? You need to find a way.
Not.
Yeah. Just because I think that'll help him because he's trying to help her and I almost feel like he's making it worse.
That's a brilliant idea to wrap that spot.
Yeah. Almost like when you sprain your arm or leg and, just wrap it up. So because he feels like he's helping because he's trying to rub the bumps off and what he doesn't realize. And I can try and explain to him, although he's still going to be insistent because he's trying to take care of her. He's going to still try and do it.
That makes so much sense because to him, that's all that's changed. That's the thing that's different.
Yeah.
So he would want to take him off and that's him that you fix. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I almost feel like she needs cream or something. She needs something to help with the
like
irritation.
a cortisol.
Yeah, she needs something because I don't feel like that stuff is going to go away. And especially like if he can stop licking it, I still feel like it's almost like it's getting dry. So it's getting like a little itchy for her.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like call the vet and see if you can get something and just say her skin's getting really dry. I think that'll help because it's almost like Frank is making it. Well, he's making it worse, but he's drying it out.
Yes. Yeah. So they make coconut oil for dogs. I saw the other day for dry skin.
Yeah, I would just check with again, I'm always like the very practical, consider that an animal communicator that's practical. But, I would always just like check with the vet and say, is this because he's doing this? Can we, just try and wrap it or see if they can maybe give you something prescription strength so it can heal faster because the faster it heals, the less he's going to mess with it.
Right. That's very true.
Yeah. That's why I would think something prescription might help.
Yeah, I agree. And listeners, she is spot on because he will not get off of her. And no matter how many times I get on him for it, he's just going at it, Well,
and I can already tell, even if I try and explain it, it's almost instinctual what he's doing. It's like, I need to clean it. So if I work with him, maybe it would stop for like 10 minutes, but it's almost like an OCD behavior right now. Right. I need to do it. I need to do it. I need to do it. And that's why we need to stop that. Like we can't just stop him. You know?
Right. I'm going to definitely bandage her up as soon as we get done with this podcast.
And just keep it loose. Like it's almost like if you sprain your calf or your leg, you're not going to keep it tight. You're going to loosen it, but just enough. And my gut he's going to do is try and move the bandage around.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I think like, it's almost like for humans, you would need like a prescription, like Neosporin kind of thing. Like that's what you need, just something to help it heal. And I'm sure they can give you something, especially if you say like what's happening. But this is what I love is like as an animal communicator, like this is what I see. And then the vets take over. I'm never a substitute for a veterinarian. But if you can go in and say, this is where we're pinpointing it to, we can work in conjunction. And that's why I love working with veterinarians. And I always have an open door policy with veterinarians, because if they, if there's a case that they can't figure out, it's like, hey, and maybe I can just point them in the right direction. But that's what I try and do with pet owners. It's like, look, you're still going to have to go to the vet.
Well, and we did.
But if we can narrow it down to, okay, needing a cream, then to call and just ask. And if they need you to come in, they need to come in. But, just narrowing it down. And that can help a lot because instead of like playing what's going on, we can get to the root of the problem faster.
Not only that, but we can't read dogs' minds like you can.
I can.
A little bit. Just saying. Well, thank you very much, Nancy.
Yes, thank you.
That was easy.
Really incredible demonstration.
Oh, he's sweet. And he's open.
Princess.
Thank Frank, because he's open to it. Like as soon as he got in your lap, he's like, I have things to say. Like, I have things to say. You've also been lacking on the treats, and you need to give him more treats.
You know what? You're probably right.
He wants the little triangle treats, but he wants them to himself. It's little triangles, but he wants them himself. He says, that's not going to happen, sweet boy. He says he only wants them for him. He says he says that when you give it to, because you try and be fair, I feel like you try and give it at the same time. And he says he always gets less. So he wants you to give it like quietly to him, like sweet boy. That I don't know if that's going to work, but so he wants it privately.
Okay, all right,
on his own, because then he'll feel like he's getting more.
He's not fighting for food.
Special. Oh.
Yeah, he just needs some love. It's okay, sweet boy.
Attention.
Yeah, he just needs a lot of love.
I'll have to go outside with the dog.
And then he needs are you rubbing his belly? He says belly rubs. He needs the belly rubbed.
I want the belly rubs.
The belly rubbed. Such a sweet boy. Such a sweet puppy.
He is.
But yeah, that's just a little bit of like what I do, like I'm
great.
And then, the animals pop up, and it's so fascinating to me. And that's why I love doing sessions on videos, because sometimes like the pets will like, especially if we're working with like, I don't like to say problem behaviors, but like, let's say they're barking too much. I'm not even joking. I've had dogs turn away from me the entire time that we're working on the barking. But as soon as I'm like, let's talk about treats, they're like, really? Like it's fascinating to me, like how they react to themselves. Yeah, and they know that I'm talking to them 100%. Like that's why like Frank's like, hey, and it's almost I joke. It's almost like a party line opens up, and they seem to know that someone can hear them. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. Like I'll never forget. I was doing a session. This is pre-COVID, and I was doing a session outside, and this dog walked by, and it was like a big like shepherd. And the guy looked at me, and the dog kind of sat and just stared at me like real, like serious. And the guy looked at me, and the guy looked at the dog, and he said, my dog barks at everyone. What is with you? He said, this is the first time. He was like, what is going on? And it was like the dog was sitting almost in reverence. And I was at the time I was connecting with someone, like, so I was working, I was sensing, but the dog like respectfully just like sat like, okay. And he was like, my dog barks at everyone. What? Like it was kind of, like he was like, and of course I didn't tell him.
You gave him attention. He got the attention he needed.
Yeah, it was like it was almost like this woman's talking. I need to sit for a second.
Yeah,
but of course, and because if I had said, "Oh, I'm an animal communicator," he would have been like, out of here.
I don't know. He might have believed you because his dog actually didn't bark at you. So.
I'm so careful.
There's a little line you walk with working with this stuff. You don't know who to say stuff to.
So my spouse calls it psychically handsy. Like, we just went on a trip, our first trip since COVID. And I really just wanted I needed to relax. So I was not saying anything like to anyone until the one night that I had a few drinks and I sang karaoke. And after I was singing karaoke,
you sing "I Have the Tiger."
I sang "First Date" by Blink-182, and I sang "No Rain" by Blue Mind Melon. There is a video on TikTok. Worst like tone, but I sang that with all my heart. But anyway, so afterwards there was like some of the younger people like came over to me, and this guy was like, yeah, great song. And I was like, yeah, cheers, and I'm like, yeah, I'm an animal communicator. He's like, what? Like, yeah, I'm an animal communicator. He's like, and I'm like, no, seriously, I'm really good. Like all the things I wouldn't say. And I was like, And my spouse came over at that time. He's like, okay, Nancy, come on. And I'm like, no,
Time
really?
to talk to the
Really?
Sandman.
I talk to people. Like I talk to dead people. Like I was like, no, really? And
Listen to me.
Like I never get to say this.
Like
to random
I
people.
haven't told anyone, and I'm telling you. And he was like, and then we saw him a few days later at breakfast, and even my spouse was like, "That's the guy that you were saying all that stuff to." I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" I was so embarrassed, and he was like trying to avert eye contact, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what did I do?" So, short answer is my daughter has asked me to not talk about it because her teachers have talked to her about me before, and she's like, don't tell anyone else, mom. So I really it's a really interesting conversation when you meet another parent of like, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a psychic. Like that's not exactly how you want your daughter to be invited over for
you don't get in the PTA in Alabama being a psychic.
Okay, so fun fact, when I started doing this professionally 4 years ago, I actually held a small position in my town government. I had been elected and I was serving. And so technically, I'm kind of the first psychic medium that my town had. But technically, I was elected before I came out publicly, and I was in my 2-year seriously. And I ended up having to I resigned, not because they were like chasing me off with broomsticks, but because I was getting too busy. But for a while, like I remember the first few times that I was going, and like I was like, what are people going to think about me? And there were a few interesting looks. But yeah, so no, I did actually serve in a public capacity for a little bit.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
That is awesome.
You do it all. It sounds like you do a lot of everything. Yeah. And you know, I'd like to have someone who is a medium in office so they could go talk to all the wise souls.
I would love that because I live
personally, I think that's a good benefit.
I live in a small New England town, so I could totally be like, that guy's property. He doesn't want you to do anything with it.
You go from house to house. You do this. You do that. You don't do that. You don't do that.
You know what? Though, like when we bought this house, you better believe, like when I go, you can't help but feel energy. And I remember this house is newer, but when we walked in, if I had felt anything, it would have been a hell no. Like no.
That's how I feel too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I can't mess around with houses like that. No.
I'm not living in that environment either.
No. Well, it's and I know some people like love it. Like I have clients that live in real verified haunted homes, and they love it because it proves to them that this is real. And that's, you know what? More power to you.
I don't need any proof that it's real.
See, exactly. My dogs agree too. They're like, we don't want this crap in here either.
So, Nancy, this has been a fascinating interview. You were just one of the most fascinating guests. Where can listeners and watchers find you and learn from you and find out what more you can do and maybe find your services?
If you want to check out my Psychically Handsy video and anything else, TikTok, Nancy.Mello. I may have some cool dance moves. Not really. Nancy.Mello on TikTok. On Instagram, I'm at Nancy Mello Official. Facebook, Nancy Mello Official. And my website, big surprise, nancymello.com. And MELLO.
I'll put all this stuff in the description of the podcast, listeners, as well. So you can just click, hopefully. And lastly, do you have any advice for anybody who maybe they want to be an animal communicator and they have a feeling they can, but they're not real confident? Can you give them maybe some advice for some people like that?
I think the first step is to work with your own pets.
That's great.
And really tune in with your own and really trusting what you're hearing, but really start with your own pets and really make sure you're having a clear dialogue. And the major thing I would say is don't doubt what you hear. I remember when we first adopted my lab, we would walk her outside to let her go to the bathroom. And I remember I kept hearing, I don't like you watching me pee. I don't like you watching me pee. So you'll hear some rando stuff. And I say, usually the more random you hear, you hear, the more likely it is to be true, because your animals will tell you, I mean, it's going to be very random. Like, for instance, with Frank. And Frank, first of all, was just like, I need to be escorted out, and it's, but, it's going to be very much their needs at the moment. So if it is kind of off the wall, you can trust it. But usually what I say is worst case, if it's not true, then it's not hurting anyone. So, but just work on those abilities and work on communicating with them when they're in front of you, when they're not, work on that and see if you can, because at the very least, you're building a deeper connection with your own animal, because they will receive it. They totally will receive that you're connecting with them, and they may not hear every word depending on you and you know how deep you're going, but they will receive it and it will increase your bond. And also you can do this with your family's animals as well. You can do it with past animals. I surround myself with pictures of my animals that have passed, and I will talk to them and include them. So include your past animals in your life as well and talk to them, involve them. Best thing you can do.
Lisa knows about that.
Yeah, I do that. I keep my cats around. One of my cats, Morgana, when she passed away, really came through, and she's been a guide for me ever since. I don't know if you can see her or sense her. She's a long-haired orange female. So, and she had a fluff. Oh, she's a fluff.
Yeah, she had a lot of tangles, and she didn't like you brushing her tangles out.
She loved to clean. She groomed constantly.
But she was very sensitive about the tangles. Very, very.
Yeah, well, she never had any tangles because she groomed
something about her bum, on her bum.
Well, you know, she had tumors all through her. She might be talking about tumors.
That's the bum.
And we didn't know until the last minute.
That's what I'm picking up. When
we didn't know. We thought we were told she had a floating rib when she was born, and it was a tumor. But her mother had given birth to a litter of underdeveloped kittens before her, and they were, you know, they had tumors all through the fetuses that came out. But Morgana was in the second litter, and the litter made it. But as far as I know, the other kittens are still alive from that litter, but she died at 7 because she had too many tumors. They just came up really fast. I was picking
up, like that stuff on the back. That's what was, and she was a tough cat though.
Yes.
She's amazing. And this is what's interesting about, and I don't like to use animal totem. I'm looking for a better word just because I don't want to misappropriate and I want to respect the Native American culture, but you have animals that you really bond with.
Cats are the ones I bond with.
And instead of coming back and reincarnating, they become a guide for you. And I kind of say like an animal totem or an animal guide, and they will be right there with you, just like your guides.
That's what she does
all the time. Yeah. And usually it's one animal in particular. So don't feel bad if you have like 5 animals from your entire life. That's okay, because it doesn't mean that they're not all around, but you kind of have one main one. And I bet that if listeners thought about it right now, they could pick one.
Immediately, the first one they thought of, probably
that comes to mind. Yeah. And that's the one. And again, it doesn't take away from any others that have been with you. It's just that's the one that kind of guides. That's kind of like the main guide. But then all your other animals will gather to help. I know, especially when I'm working with like missing pets, I just ask for my all of my
question about missing pets. I have a really hard time doing missing pets because to me, all animal energy feels the same. And if they're passed away or alive, I can't tell that their energy feels the same to me. How can you tell? I'm just curious. Is there a certain way you can tell, or do you just know, or if they've passed away?
I want to take a second to think about this because I really
have trouble with the animals missing. And I mean, so I just can't feel like they're alive all the time.
Okay. So this is what I'll say. And I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head. So what I have found is that when I am asking an animal, so let's just say there was this was a cat and it was missing in a small development on the outside of the woods, and I was feeling it for a few days, and I was working with its owner, and when I would connect, I'd be like, where are you? And I would immediately get an image. And one day I connected and I didn't get where they were. It was like,
oh, okay.
So what you'll see, at least what I've personally found, is you'll have it kind of stop. There's a period. When you ask, like, are you in pain? It'll be, or they'll start remembering things.
That makes sense to me. You just said that. I don't know why, but it's
like a period. Or what you'll get is I've had other animals that are already passed when you initially connect with them, and they'll be speaking about memories. So I'll be talking. There was one cat, a couple of years ago, actually, and this cat was starting to talk about like being on top of the car and like kind of hanging out in the car. And it was the owner that was like, this is what happened when they were alive. And I was like, so sometimes, and that's something you can ask the owner. Does this sound familiar to you? Does this sound like something they've done in the past? Because that can also clue you in. Because so funny enough, sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. I had a cat. Sometimes a lot of times, at least for me personally, when you're working with an animal that's had a real tragedy or a very abrupt situation. I was working with a cat in Dublin. I just want to make sure I got the city right. And we were tracking it, and we had found the last place he was. Like we went, the cat was like, I was in this garden. She goes over there. They were like, oh yeah, he was there last night. And all of a sudden I felt like he was like, there was like cars and there was a busy thing. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm telling her, and she's like, that doesn't make any sense. She's like, that is nowhere where he was last sighted. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And so it's my dog barking. So I was like, okay, start like putting it out on social media, like throw it out there more. And a few days later, she had a gentleman contact her from 5 kilometers away, 3 miles away. And the cat was over on a busy street and they found it. What we surmised happened, and what I asked him about later, he had jumped in a car. He didn't tell me.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
So
he didn't tell you?
No, he didn't tell me at the time. And it's almost, and honestly, for a cat, it would probably like be like, well, you didn't ask if I was in a car.
That's how the
cat would probably respond. But no, there was just a gap in time. So like it went from garden to like cars and like brick buildings. And it matched up where he was found, but he did not share. And was it because it was, a very scary situation? I imagine so. Right. That even he was having a hard time processing the fact that, holy crap, I almost died in this car. Like I had this, so sometimes you'll see that. So that's, again, there's so many levels to missing pets that,
I do have a question. I have a cat. I did named Ouija, and my husband and I separated and we're divorced now. My ex-husband, my second husband.
I'm sorry, what was the cat's name? Luigi?
Ouija, like a Ouija board.
Oh yeah, got it.
And a week before I moved out, I lived there for a month looking for a place to live, and then I moved out. But about a week before I moved out, she disappeared. And she was she was 8 or 9, chubby, she orange spots. She's really like kind of rolly. She has the cutest little face, munchkin cheeks. And I called her mama because she had a litter. And she was the best mama. And she's real kind of like my friend called her sports coop. I can pull up a picture of her real quick if you want to see her. But I just want to know, like, I get the impression either she ran away, because whenever I look for her, she ran away.
I see her by a canal or a waterway.
I feel like seeing her tail. She doesn't want me to find her.
How long ago was this?
This was a year ago, almost over a year ago.
I see her by a waterway. A waterway. And
I know where it is. Canal. I know what you're talking about.
There's a canal and there's a bridge, like
is it a white, like a little kind of white?
And it's like a little overpass, and then there's a canal. I feel like there's other cats around, but it's not a feral location. It's not like a feral.
I think I know right where you're talking about.
But there are other cats around, and I see some garbage or something. It's kind of like a canal, and I feel like there's houses around.
I know where you're talking about. It's at the end of that street. I would look over there, and what I would do is like tell all the neighbors, and like what I always tell my missing pet clients. Obviously, when you're knocking on doors, you don't say an animal communicator told me, a pet psychic told me. Absolutely do not say that. No. You just say there's been a sighting. You say there's been a sighting. And that way people will know. You might understand this then why she ran away, because my ex-husband, this cat loved him. She loved men. She loves men. And she said she eventually accepted me. She loved me. And my ex-husband was sitting with her, and I said, are you sure you don't want to take one Ouija with you? I mean, she's like, your cat, I mean, I was going to take her and these boys. And he's like, no, I don't want any cats. I'm done with cats. And she just looked at me, and I knew she heard it, and I knew it hurt her. Yeah. And then like 3 days later,
she knew. She
went away.
Yeah, she knew. I had a cat.
It hurt her.
Yeah, no, I had a cat, and he was my cat after my parents divorced, and we moved into the city, literal city, Sacramento, and he hated it. And he was in the garage and he was yowling. And I think I was 12 years old, and my mom opened the garage and we never saw him again. And to be honest, I've never asked anyone like what happened to him. I don't know if I want to know. But I knew that he just wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. He wanted the country.
They do move on when they're not happy.
They do. And I have to respect that. And I love him, and he will always be in my heart. But there was nothing we could do, like there was nothing we could do. Like
maybe that was maybe his lesson to you at that young age was the freedom that animals really have inside them.
Well, and sometimes, and I hate this when it happens. And because I never like to tell people, oh, it's meant to be. I do not like saying that. I don't like saying, well, it's for the best. I will never tell you that. It's just, I just don't think it helps. I think that animals are just like with people, are help us learn and help us to perfect. Yes. And so they will teach us different lessons. I had so I'm a military spouse. We've moved all over, and I had this wonderful cat named Frankie, this wonderful black cat named Frankie. And I had someone joke once that my cats had more frequent flyer miles than some people, because we went from Seattle to Hawaii, from Hawaii to Connecticut, back to Hawaii, back to Connecticut. So this cat has been everywhere. And one of the first summers we were back in Connecticut, which we're settled. I told my spouse no more. He lives elsewhere right now, because I was like, if you get stationed somewhere else, God bless you. We're here. Oh yeah. But one of the first summers here, she went outside and there was a thunderstorm and we never saw her again. And I knew that she had been eaten. This cat, her stomach hit the ground. Like, this cat could not run. And it was weird though, because I just knew that not that she had chosen to go that way, but she was tired of the moving. And at the time, she obviously didn't understand, okay, we're done. Mommy has put a fork in this. Like, I am done. But she didn't. And she didn't want to. So she went outside. And unfortunately, and we never found her body, but I just knew. Like, I knew.
Yeah, that's what happened with Roxy, my cat Roxy. Yeah. When I looked for her, I saw the last thing she saw, and it was the fence in my backyard. She's the one who lost her mind. I mean, when I say lost her mind, she didn't even know who she was. So she was about 7 when she got to that point. She just sit on the back porch, and she started bringing, like, we'd leave food for her, but she'd bring animals and stash them in the couch or, things on the patio, and we wouldn't know where they were. Then these possums started coming.
Oh my God.
And that's when I knew, I was like, what's up with these possums? And then the white possum came. Wow. And after that, that's when she disappeared. And when I looked, I saw that fence. And the next thing, I kind of knew a coyote came in and took her. I just knew. She let me know. But she comes in my readings sometimes. And she's like other cats will, if I ask them, a little help here. She'll come in when there's something I do not want to know. Like, her face will pop into my head, because like she doesn't want me to know what happened to her, even though I know.
And I think that's like the feeling I get from my cat that ran off when I moved to Sacramento. It's the same thing, where I have not felt an inkling to know. But what's interesting, and I feel like, again, like for me, I know that my whole life was gearing up to help people, and growing up on this farm where we received it, animals came, but also we had coyotes around. Like, I have memories of kittens, coyotes getting into a shed and unfortunately taking kittens. And you learn very quickly in the country, it's not happy, but
it gives you respect for life.
Unfortunately, and I hate saying it, because again, I feel so much empathy for people I work with, and but it's still sad and it's still tragic. But you can also take it as this is just, I will tell people sometimes that because this happened, it allows something else to happen, right?
Yeah, come in.
Like there was a beautiful gentleman yesterday that got into a tragic accident, and he was still in the hospital, and we kept having to reschedule because he was in the hospital. He finally did the session from his hospital bed, and one of his cats had passed right before he had this accident, and he was broken up over it. And I heard from the cat's like, well, I had to go then, because he didn't want to leave me. If he was in the hospital, something else would have happened to him. So the cat chose to go then, because
and then he would have been feeling all guilty as he was in the hospital.
Because he knew what was happening, and then the cat still would have gone. So animals know. And so it's sad because, and going back to like them being outside, I also have found that animals will go off to pass.
They do.
They will. I have seen and heard.
I've had cats do that.
And it's hard.
They tell me in dreams.
Yeah. From a pet owner's perspective, though, when you're working with people, like, it's so hard because you've loved them so much. Like, the most common question I get is from when I'm working with animals that pass. Did they know that I love them? Yes. Oh, yeah. But sometimes loving them, they love you so much that a lot of times they don't want you to see them suffer.
No, that's absolutely the truth. Absolutely. They don't want
But it's so hard as a pet owner yourself because it's, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to be in that situation. And
it is. But you probably help people so much just being there for them and letting them.
But it's still, but it is. Yeah. But at the same time, and I'm so grateful that I get to help so many people. And I also work with animals at end of life. So like right now, you go on my website and you could schedule a session within 72 hours. So if you have an animal that has terminal cancer that is passing, you book a session and I will talk to you and we'll talk about the animal's bucket list. I've actually been featured in Dogster magazine last year for this, because we'll go through like end of life stuff, because I think it's interesting. I feel like it's just as important, just as like people, it's important for pets to have that closure. And what I tell people is, if you notice your pet getting slower, if you notice, take all the photos, do all the celebrating, put them in the silly hat that they hate, like do all the stuff, because they want those memories at the very end to be laughing.
They don't want us crying and upset and scared. No, they don't. You're right.
No, but they want it to be cherished. And if you can do those things, like a lot of times, like it never fails. You have a dog that's allergic to chicken. They want chicken. And the owner's like, they can't have chicken. And they like, they're passing. Like, it's like we hear there's a story about the vet that always gives the pets a little bit of chocolate. Like, if they want chicken and they're passing tomorrow, like, what's going to happen? What I mean? Yeah. Like, but it's giving those animals those chance, but at the same time, then you're allowing them to have that happiness that lasts a little bit. And then that you did everything you can. And I think the tragedy when animals go off to pass is that you don't get that chance.
You don't get
that chance. You don't get that chance.
They want you to think they're always alive.
Yeah. Well, and that closure for them is just walking away. Like especially for cats, they're like, bye. Like, yes, this is our closure. I'm done.
Absolutely.
So it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful because it's just, you get this full cycle of, I love working with animals during life and then passing, and then they come after and they are shining and they aren't hurting and they just want to know that they love you and that they're still with you.
That's right. But then you have just said it all right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's just beautiful.
And this has been this has been one of my favorite podcasts we've done. I don't know about you, Misty, but I love this. Thank you so much.
I'm almost to tears. I'm so emotional right now.
I'm just honestly, I'm honored to do it. And I appreciate what you ladies do, because there needs to be more conversations about this, that death isn't, we have death as kind of this,
finality. It's not
finality, but also like we have it as like like we're so afraid to speak about it.
Yeah.
And working with people, I had a woman in Hawaii that was passing, and this woman wanted a big party. She wanted the biggest party. And I was working with her daughter, and to be able to and this woman had lost the ability to speak. And so her daughter contacted me, and to be able to speak for her mom. And her mom ended up having a wonderful party, a wonderful potluck, which is very traditional in Hawaiian cultures. And she had all of her favorite people, because that's how she wanted to go out. Was in style, was in with a party. And pets feel the same way. But what the word I was thinking of, death isn't the boogeyman. And we think it is because we think that's a period, but really it's just the end of a chapter.
It's just something we don't understand all the way.
But there's so much more. And yet it's almost like it's so much scarier to think that there's people like me around that can talk to it than to admit that maybe we don't understand everything. Like we were talking about the doctors and the scientists. Yeah. Like we don't, my husband's a mechanical engineer, and
great,
and he, like, I remember I talked to, we were dating. I was like, I'm a psychic, and he's like, yeah, right. I mean, it took a few years, but like what he says to me is, I just can't explain what you do yet. And that's what we're talking about, like the brain and stuff. Exactly. But if we can have more conversations like this, and there can be more podcasts like this, where we're talking about animals having feelings, having empathy, having the ability to truly work in our lives, then we are helping. Then
so many people don't realize the power we all have to take control of our lives if we just like educate ourselves as much as possible and learn what we need to. People, like, a lot of people stay stuck in sadness, especially because they get stuck wherever they are a lot of times, because it's hard to change.
Well, and we all have a purpose here. And I say that, like, this, for me, this is truly a calling. Like, I don't have a choice. Like
most people who come on this podcast say that they don't feel like they have a choice.
And it's funny, because I had a minister once on TikTok say, well, I'm a minister and I have a calling, and this isn't, heaven, or what did he say? Like, the stuff you're saying about heaven isn't real. And I'm like, well, thank you for identifying that you're a minister. I appreciate that. You have a calling, and so do I. And I respect your opinion. And I respect that your opinion is based off of your truth, and this is my truth. And if we can all agree that, we're not all going to say the same thing, but it's what's in here.
Right.
But at the worst case, you can't say that there's too many of us saying this very similar things about what happens after passing. There's too many of us that have communicated with animals. There's too many of us that have, look at, you Google NDEs and it's near-death experiences, and it's very similar. So there's got to be something to it, even like from an intellectual level. So what I love is the fact that we're having these conversations about death. And it's healthy.
It is. Oh no, Misty dropped out. Hey, listeners and watchers, Misty just disappeared. Oh, she's back. She's coming back. Well,
it was like perfect timing too, because it was like the finale.
Right at the end of your sentence.
She was like, but it was almost like the universe being like, and this is, but it's not the end, right? Because she's coming back. But it's almost like an analogy, right? For death is that she ended. And now, but she comes back in a different form. Well,
there she is. She's in a new form.
Missy has been reborn.
She's frozen form.
She has been reborn. She needs another belly button.
Reborn form.
When I was, like they say, when I was born again. So if I'm born again, do I have 2 belly buttons? So.
Yeah. I never heard that, but that's funny. That's great. So, Nancy, I could go on and on. Before we go on and say goodbye, because it takes us a while to say goodbye. It takes me a while to end a podcast because I don't know how to do it. But I do want to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app where you can get advice from psychics and empaths, so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And Nancy, thank you so much yet again. And Misty, you're there. She blinked. She's not frozen.
I am.
Give us a sign.
Thank you.
Send us a sign, Misty.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll let this podcast end. So Misty is in and out. And thank you, Misty. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, listeners and watchers. We love you. And as always, stay happy in the morning and night. Be listening to the happiness. I hate saying goodbye, Nancy. This is just terrible. And
thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much for having me. This has been great. You won. Wonderful.
So much fun.
It is fun. This is a good one. Thank you so much, everybody. Peace out. Goodbye.